It is a Stephen King summer. Okay, maybe a Stephen King year. Today, we are going to talk about the fifth book in the Dark Tower series. It is not every day one sets out to read the Dark Tower series, so this has been quite the event. I've been reading through this series with Jason of Jason's Weird Reads. We're also recording an episode for each book for his podcast, the Weird Reads podcast. If you haven't had a chance to check that out, I will link all that info down below, as well as Jason's channel if you haven't checked him out yet. What are you doing? Go do it. They'll all be down below in the darkness in the description. All right, so let's talk about Wolves of the Calla. This series is awesome. I cannot stress how much I'm enjoying it. What a world and what a story. This one I really loved how much Salem's Lot is interwoven with this story. I had no idea that was going to be a thing. Salem's Lot has a place in my heart because it was the first Stephen King book I've ever read. So the fact that it's tied into this, and I haven't read that book in years, I'm going to have to go back and read Salem's Lot, I think, after we finish this series, because it's been a really long time. I read that many, many moons ago. All right, so the Wolves of the Calla. We have our party, Roland, Jake, Santa, and Eddie Dean, and Oi, and they have just come up to the town of Calabrine Sturgis, and they're camping out, and they kind of notice that there's some people that have been following them. All right, so let's flash over to this town and the people of this town. So the people of this town, all of them are human, and there's this one robot guy, Andy, who wanders around. He's the messenger robot. He likes to sing obnoxious songs and play with the children there, and he likes to tell you your horoscope. Some find him charming, some find him annoying. He's Andy. And Andy always warns them when the wolves are coming. Now, strange thing about this town, all these people, the kids they have, are all twins. Having a single child is super, super rare. And what happens when the wolves come, and it only happens every like 20 plus years or so, like every 23 or 24 years, something along those lines. When the wolves come, they take away one set of the twins, and then when they come back, they're what they call Roont, Roont. They no longer have the same mental faculties that they did. They grow into like giants. They get like, it seems like maybe 2 to 3 feet taller, and they broaden out, and they're kind of just very simple, and some can't talk. Sometimes, they don't always remember how to use the bathroom. They come back and they're a shell of themselves, basically. And so this happens every, like I said, 23, 24 years or something like that. So the town has now been warned that the wolves are coming. And the person that was warned is Tian. And his sister, Tia, she was one of the Roont ones. And she helps him plow his fields and laughs with great honking laughter. And it seems quite jolly. He finds this out and he's kind of freaked out because he has 2 sets of twins and they have 1 single child as well. So they don't have to worry about the single child, but the 2 sets, he does. And this has been going on for a really, really long time. And so he gets it in himself and he's like, we need to actually do something about this. Why are we just letting them take our children? But when the wolves come, the wolves have these weird, like, drone buzz balls that they throw at you when you explode, and they have what seems to be lightsabers, like these light swords. They're lightsabers from Star Wars. Anyway, and so they've never really stood up to him before. So he grabs the town's feather, because if you do that, it's this thing, you take the feather if you want to talk about a topic, to call a meeting on all that stuff. So he calls a meeting of the townfolk. He somehow sort of convinces them, with the help of the old fella who is Father Callahan, or used to be Father Callahan, then wasn't, then now is again, and he has a little church in the town, and he came from somewhere else. He came from Salem's Lot and wandered for many years, going through time and space into different versions of the world, it seems. But the father tells the people when they've gathered at this meeting that there are gunslingers that have come to town. And I was like, what? Gunslingers don't exist anymore. That's not a thing. And he's like, perhaps it is. And so they gather a group of people to go and see if it's true that gunslingers could possibly be here. Because if it is, maybe these gunslingers could help them fight the wolves. That's how Roland and Eddie and Susanna and Jake and Oi realize there's a group of people that are kind of following them around. And, Roland, he's got the eyes of a hawk and sees for miles and miles, so he's known for quite some time. And he's like, well, they haven't, attacked us so far, and he kind of assumes they're going to come up and ask for help of some sort for their town. And so when they finally do, he talks first to Father Callahan. He kind of, tells them what's going on, and they're going to have to convince the people. And Roland's like, no. We don't convince them. Like, we'll tell them who we are, what we're going to do, and, perhaps we'll help. But it's kind of like they got to convince themselves. They meet with these other people, and you have, like, the big farmer. So you have, like, the rich guy who seems very standoffish at first. It doesn't seem like he wants to do this. And so if they could get him on the same page, perhaps maybe they could convince the other town folks and whatnot, because there's definitely some, like, who just don't want to fight. At some point, the big farmer or whoever, they get him to where he's like, okay, perhaps, because he was adamantly against this until he met Roland and the other gunslingers. So now he's kind of like, well, maybe. They agree to come into town. I don't remember if they knew that Father Callahan was from out of time, if he had told them that, or kind of where he came from before, but he gets into his story more, and he becomes kind of, his Ka and whatnot is definitely super interwoven with theirs as you get into the story, and it's quite interesting. So they come to town, and they have a big meeting. And, like, the thing first that they say is that, we need to look and see if we'll be able to protect the town and what we can do and if it's even possible. And if we think it is, we'll help. If not, we'll be on our way. So, that's what they go about. Roland has Jake stay with this guy, Benny Slightman, and Benny Slightman's father. I'm saying that weird. He stays with the Slightman family. This boy, Benny, is kind of near his age, and they kind of hit it off. And Roland's like, better to have eyes spread apart and see in different places to find out, more about the situation, more about the wolves, how they attack, where they come from, the who, what, when, where, why, and what they do, and what happens to these children. They come to town, and they see this, and then they decide, yes, they are going to stay and help these people fight and figure out a way to do this if the wolves have any vulnerabilities and all that good stuff. And so also they get to hear Father Callahan's story about when he was in Salem's Lot and discovering that there were actual vampires, and there was different types of vampires, like level 1, 2, and 3 kind of deal. Like there's this guy Barlow who was like the head guy who made other vampires, and then there was and they got stupider as they got to the to the lower levels. Like some just couldn't make other vampires, some were kind of like zombies, and some just fed ravenously. So anyways, he talks about that, and at some point Father Callahan started hunting the vampires, and at first none of them noticed, but at some point they did. And there was a whole big standoff, too, with Barlow, and Barlow made him drink his blood, and so Father Callahan could then see these other vampires, at least, like, the lower level ones. They had, like, a weird blue electricity to them. And it seems like these vampires may have come from the town of Thunderclap, which is right near the Calla. So, that is where the wolves are from, and that is also where these vampires seem to come from. How they know this, I'm not really sure. Thunderclap seems like it's a really horrible, evil place, which may be where we're going in the book that follows this one. So he tells a story, and at some point these vampires start hunting him. I'm going to say this word totally wrong. I don't know how to say it. Called the state of being, and it's kind of like in and out of reality. Like you're in the reality, but people can't see you. It's called either Todash or Tadash or Two-dash. In my head, I was saying it as Todash, so I'm sorry if that's the wrong way to say it, but that's how I'm going to say it in this video. You can correct me in the comments, just let me know. Sorry in advance. And how they find out about this is when they had been camped prior to talking to everyone. They ate these things that they called muffin balls. Apparently, muffin balls they grow on bushes, and Jake found a bunch, and Roland's like, these might give you really vibrant dreams. But they go to Toadash, right? Or Two Dash, Tadash, whatever. I don't know. Jake and Eddie end up being in New York City. They're there, but they're not there. And they go and they go back to that bookstore that Jake had been at, where Calvin Tower was. This time, they see this car pull up, and it's Enrico Balazar. If you recall who Enrico Balazar is in the prior books, that was like the drug lord that Eddie's brother was killed, and they had the big shootout where Eddie was naked and Roland had to fight him and all that stuff. So that guy is at the bookstore. So you have this crazy kind of like weird coincidence, synchronicity. And then in this book, the number 19 is repeated over and over and over again. It's like this weird coincidence every time 19 comes up. 19 letters in this name, 19 letters in the title of this store, and this, that, and the other. And so they see this, and apparently Balazar is trying to get Calvin Tower to sell the lot with the rose. Tower owns the lot with the rose, and it seems like he's the last in the line of the Guardians to this, and he doesn't want to part with it, and he doesn't seem to want to do it. But the rose is in super danger because of this, and it's kind of crazy that Balazar is even involved in this as well, but that's how it goes. Like, all these weird, intertwined, intertwisting things. It's pretty crazy. So they go there, they come back, they talk to Roland about all this stuff. Then when they were talking to Father Callahan, also Father Callahan lets them know, well, the reason that happened, that you guys experienced that, is because I have something at my church that I want to get rid of. He wants to give it to him. Guess what he has? He has the Black 13 Wizards rainbow, or lack thereof rainbow. I don't know what you call it. It's Black 13 is the glass ball. It's the evilest of all evils, and it has been activating a little bit, and that's what sent them there. So Roland is even more so like, okay, yeah, we need to help these people and do this. And either way, the father was going to give it to him because he wants it out of his hands. He doesn't want to deal with it or see it or touch it. Like, he's like, get it out of here. As they're in town, our quartet with Roland, Susanna, Eddie, Oi, Jake, they come up with a plan. As they talk to the different townsfolk, they stay with different people and kind of get a feel for stuff. And a lot of times they stay with this Tien and his wife, their family. And they end up talking to the father of Tien, and because he's kind of getting dementia, but he had actually, or claimed that he had killed one of the wolves or seen how it died. So, okay, they have a vulnerability, but they gotta maybe catch him on a good day to find out how it was killed. And so, do they end up catching the dad on a good day to find this information out? Well, yeah, they do. So, they find out, yes, these wolves are not invincible and they can be beaten. And as he gets to know the townsfolk, he finds out that there are certain ladies around town, and the town worships this goddess called Oriza, which is the goddess of rice. Oriza, the women who follow her, there's this whole story about how she killed Grey Dick. And Grey Dick was this evil man that Lady Oriza had a plate that she had sharpened, and she had practiced and practiced with this. And this man, I think, had killed her husband or something along those lines. She has him come to dinner because I forget how she lures him there. So there's the whole story, and he's like, wants to make sure there's no weapons. He's like, you'll kill me, it'll be poison, this, that, and the other, blah, 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 blah. And she's like, well, no, we'll both be naked, whatever. And so they're both naked. They have this weird dinner, and his dudes checked all the place. No weapons anywhere. She eats the food before he eats it, not poison, but they never check the dinner plate. And so she picks it up and she chucks it and basically like cuts his head off. So these women of the town that worship her, they also throw the plate, the four special plate, which was talked about in the other books, that none of that made sense before. That in some of the books too, that Susanna, in her other state of mind when she was Detta, would go break these plates. Also, in this book, there's so much going on. Susanna seems to have another persona cropping up called Mia, which is also mother in the high speech, and it seems that she is pregnant with what she calls her chap, and her chap doesn't seem to be human. It's not Eddie's son. It seems to be the son of the demon that she had to take care of while Jake was coming through the door in the other book. So, if you haven't read this book, I'm maybe not connecting the dots for you the best, but I do have so far a whole playlist of all the books I've read up to this far for the Dark Tower series. That will be in the description down below, and also that'll be at the end of this video. That'll be coming up if you want to go back and watch any of those and check that out. So, she's pregnant with some weird psycho demon's baby, and the other lady's trying to take her over, and like Susanna slips away at night too, and apparently in her mind she goes to this weird castle and eats stuff at this banquet table. But in reality, she slips off and she'll go into like a swamp and just eat raw frogs and fish and whatever. Or, you know, if she's not near a swamp, she goes into a barn and maybe eats a stoat. I'm not sure what a stoat is. Is that like a baby goat? I don't know what she ate. First I thought it was a baby pig, but she ate something and she ate it raw. Gross. So, but this is in her other state of mind and she doesn't know, and Roland doesn't want to tell her yet. They don't want to tell her because they don't want to upset the balance and whatever, and they need her to be able to fight for when they fight these wolves. They find out about these women who can throw the plates, and this seems to be the way to take these wolves down. But Roland also suspects that someone is in town is filling these wolves in. It's not just like, oh, they have like super intuition, because apparently they always find the children no matter where the people hid them and this, that, and the other. He's like, something smells fishy, right? He thinks perhaps someone is running over to the wolves and filling them in. You know, there might be a traitor amongst them. Well, of course there is. I'm not going to tell you who it is, but there definitely is. So they have to like lie. Roland lies about all kinds of stuff. He makes up where he wants to keep the children because the townfolk, they have loose lips that sink ships. They like to gossip a lot. And the gossip is going to get to the ears of whoever the freaking traitors are. So Roland makes up a bunch of stuff. Most of it is all lies that they hear when he gets up on the stage, when they talk about when they're going to go after the wolves and what their plan is. Most of it is lies. Some of it is not. But he has to do this because otherwise the chances of actually surprising the wolves and being able to ambush them, the element of surprise to take on like these 40 to 60 wolves, they need to be able to surprise them, because I think there's only like, I forget how many people fought. 12? I don't remember. There might have been 12. And so Susanna, the ladies of Ariza, they train her also to throw the plate because she's a gunslinger and she's apt for it. And they only had 3 guns, so the fact that she can wield these, it helps out tremendously. So at first Roland had been like very worried because these people didn't really have weapons. They had like a bow and a ba. A ba seems like maybe it's some sort of crossbow, but the accuracy of those are not very good. And then there was a couple guns in town. Like one had, I think, a shotgun or was it a rifle? Someone had a shotgun or a rifle. I don't remember. And he had 2 other guns. They were garbage. They didn't work. Roland like took them apart, cleaned them, and is like, this one, the rifle or the shotgun, I think it was a rifle. Like, this one's great. This one worked, but the others, not so much. And so they prepare for these wolves. They're going to fight because they have this whole like allegorical thing they say about like about a tree slowly dying from the inside, and it's like, that's what these wolves are doing to your town. Yeah, sure, they leave one, but you guys are slowly dying from the inside. They're taking your heart, they're taking your soul every time they take one of these kids. And so they finally have hit the point where they're like, okay, we're gonna do this. And they still had people who didn't want to, you know. And so, yes, there will be some casualties of war that will happen. And this book was great. I love this one too. I've loved these all. They're so good. Honestly, this is one of the best series that I have read. I don't read a lot of series though, so I can't, I guess, say that because I always like start them and then I don't finish them. But yeah, this is an excellent series. I freaking love it. If you haven't read it and you like fantasy and you like Stephen King, it's awesome. And also, you know, we're going to have a more of a deep dive into this book as well that will be coming on Jason's podcast, the Weird Reads podcast. Like I said, those links will be down below. If you do want to hear more about the Dark Tower series, stick around. The playlist will be at the end of this video if you want to click on that and check out my other videos that are about these books thus far. And if you enjoyed hanging out today, hit that subscribe button, come back, see me again, and we'll talk about more bookish things and weird stuff.